Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. And this is your loyal Indie Diaries and host, Anthony L. Wolf, writer, narrative designer, and senior content manager in social media, as you guys know from previous episodes. And about episodes, actually, this is a very special one. Some time ago, around Christmas, I got in touch with Indieverse founder Angelissa, and we ran a beautiful little giveaway in the Indieverse Discord server to give away, indeed, 3 interview slots from the Indie Diaries. And this is the first interview that goes live as part of that giveaway with Falinere, who's both a game developer and a content creator. Before we get into the episode, though, I want to shout out to my amazing Patreons who are, at the time of recording this, Feinoko, Zugini, Fishbum Dev, and Pelig. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show every single month. I don't know where I'd be without you. If you too, listeners, want to support the show via Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/theindiediaries and check out my tiers, which start from as little as £1.25 per month and include anything from episode previews to uncut video episodes and a lot more. But let's get into Indie Diary number 38 now. Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. As you may have heard from the intro that I have recorded separately, this is a very special episode in which I speak to a proud member of the Indieverse community. I personally know, well, not personally as in person, but I do know Angelissa, the founder of Indieverse, and she's just one of the most amazing human beings out there. We even did some, we even played together at some point for the holiday extravaganza in my Discord server, and we collaborated for this one, for this little chance where 3 developers from the Indieverse community will come onto the show for the next few weeks, over the next few weeks. So today with me is Falinere, who's not only a game dev but also a content creator. So Falinere, just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. What you do, where you're based, and where you're working on right now.
So I'm Falinere. I've been streaming on Twitch for about 4 years now, and doing game development for 3 to 3.5 of those years. Started off as a content creator, and then one day I decided that I was gonna make a game, and then it just kind of cascaded from there. It's been kind of a wild ride.
Nice, yeah. Well, yeah, it's a wild ride. I expect it was, and we'll hear all about it as we go on. But to begin with, I always like to start these episodes with a little icebreaker that my listeners will be used to by now. If you could be any game's character for a day, who would you be and why?
For a whole day?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. My instinct is reaching me back to one of my favorites, which is Legend of Dragoon.
All right. Oh God, I have to play that one still. Yeah. Right.
I think one of the most interesting characters you could be in a game is probably NPCs from open world games.
Oh, yes.
Just so you could just stand there and watch all of the things that could ever possibly happen.
And
just knowing that you can't go anywhere. You just have to be there for the entire experience.
Yeah.
That's probably where I would be.
That's a great point, actually. Basically, you're a bystander. Well, not a bystander, but like you're someone who's just watching the hero from afar, but you're still enjoying the kind of stuff that the hero does without all the challenges and all the hardship. So
with most of the risks.
Yeah, exactly. All the rewards with no risks. Perfect. Yeah, no, that's an interesting answer, and never have I heard anyone say that before on this show. So. Yeah. Well, then, I guess when it comes to gaming and such, you mentioned Legend of Dragoon, so obviously one of your favorites, and that kind of the 90s feel there. But I always like to start from the beginning, because as you've heard from the intro, this is a show on the human stories behind indie game development. So think back to your childhood. Like, what's your earliest or fondest memory that involves video games?
Ooh, when this would have been around 1995.
Oh, my birth year.
My mother bought me the Nintendo 64, I want to say within a couple months of it coming out. I don't necessarily know why she did this, but I have very, very like specific memories of getting that and playing Mario 64, and it just changing the entire way that I thought about what I do in my life. And as a child, that's massive. And that's one of my earliest thoughts that I can reach back and remember and grab.
Everybody remembers Mario 64. Wasn't it the first 3D completely, like, well, not open world, but you get what I mean, like one of the first 3D games ever to just handle it that way, as far as I remember it was.
Yeah, 64-bit, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was just amazing. Great game all in all. Well, it's similar to one of my earliest memories, because of course, being from '95, one of the first games that I played was Crash Bandicoot, or even Spyro, all those platforms from that era. And of course, the 3D was already kind of I don't want to say advanced, but you know, it had started, like it started establishing itself. So it was pretty established. So yeah, it was but I still remember this one. And sometimes I have brought it up during the show. So some listeners will remember this story. But I still remember this console, which was probably a ripoff of another console, because my grandma just bought it. You know, one of those consoles that you find like maybe on street markets and such, and they're completely a fraud. But they have maybe just a couple of pre-installed games that you can play. And this console was like completely black background on a white foreground. And it was, of course, in pixels. I think it was 8-bit or something. So I have no idea what console that was. I have no idea if it was an authentic console or a ripoff. Probably a ripoff. And if it was, I don't know what it was a ripoff of. But I never found it again. I never found images of that thing ever again. But it's one of my first memories, and I had so much fun with that one. I had a lot of little mini games, arcade games and such. I have absolutely no idea what that was. Maybe it's still somewhere in my parents' garage. I'll have to ask. But yeah. So moving on, I would say. So you remember Mario 64, of course. Were there other games that you remember playing growing up? And I wonder, knowing that you do interactive RPG, and we'll get to that. Are they having an influence on the kind of work that you do now?
So a lot of my early game loves are going to be RPGs. As I mentioned earlier, Legend of Dragoon, probably my favorite game of all time. I do think that those games have an influence on how I approach game dev as well. Yeah.
Well, that's and that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, of course, at the beginning we all play, but then a moment comes where we want to start making. So when did you realize you wanted to make games? Was there some sort of aha moment, an epiphany of sorts?
My game development journey is, I don't know if there's a typical one, but if there was, this wouldn't be it.
Okay.
So I started off as a content creator. At the height of pandemic, like everybody else did.
Yeah.
And just started streaming on Twitch, playing, Fall Guys and Among Us and all the things that were hot at the time. And I was introduced through a YouTube video, a program that could interact with OBS and Twitch and do things inside OBS or do things on the Twitch side.
Okay.
It at the time it was called the Orm board, and I started kind of fiddling with it, and it was my first introduction to programming as well, which is something I've always been interested in, but never had the opportunity to really do anything. And I was making like really neat visual effects inside OBS and having them play when certain phrases were said or things like that.
Wow. Okay.
And then one day, I was speaking with a friend of mine who is really into Smash Brothers. And we were talking about because Sephiroth had been released, I believe. And they made like a whole Smash Brothers, what do you call it? The place where you fight. I am a gamer.
Oh, Arena?
Arena, thank you.
Okay.
They made a Smash Bros. Arena based on Final Fantasy VII. And you had the meteor come in and everything.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I got the idea of taking that meteor from that arena and cutting it out and making a game out of it. So
Okay.
the game was just called Meteor, and there was a chance randomly during the stream it could happen. There were 2 different phrases that users had to say in my chat, and if they said it enough times, the meteor would get pushed back and it would go away. But if they didn't say it enough, the meteor would crash down into the stream. It would play this whole animation, and there was a chance it could just shut the stream off.
Wow. Okay.
And I was so fascinated after making that I just
It sounds super interesting. I mean, it sounds something super fun. I would love to see something on the stream, something like that on a stream.
I thought it was super cool. Unfortunately, we also found out that if you spam a message enough times in a chat, Twitch will shadow ban you.
That's what I was worried about. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I got some new VIPs that day, though, which was really cool.
Yeah. Well, no, but that sounds like something super interesting, and we'll get into this kind of interactive Twitch games that you do. But before we get there, I've got one more question for you, which is there in this time that you've explored game development and content creation together, is there a particular challenge that has left a mark on you? Like any big learnings that you want to share for other developers or content creators in the same space?
Doing game development so I do really niche game development, and I know we're going to get towards that, but it's game development through streaming platforms is my niche. That's what I focus on, and that it's hard. Oh, it's hard. Because you have to make things as interactive as possible, but as easy to approach as possible. Most of it's text based. And it's terrifyingly difficult all the time. From the experience that I have, something that I would give to someone that's interested in game development is just find something you're really interested in and use that as a way to get in. If you, I love RPGs, and that's where I'm taking my step here is a way to make my own, but with my own personal twist on it. And I reference all kinds of different games in what I make, but that's just how the process works.
Yeah.
And for content creators, you can do anything. Do anything and be a content creator. So lean into it. Lean into what it is that you like and make it your own.
Yeah, I think that's really sound advice. And also, I mean, I imagine it's very difficult to do something like the stuff that you develop because, I mean, you not only have to care about user input, you have to care about the platform that the user input is on. And then all of those things, they have to work together. And then not only that, you would have to care about 2 different platforms because not only Twitch has to affect your OBS stream as well. So on your side. So I suppose it's a big headache. But I liked what you said about, doing your own thing and also, putting a bit of yourself in it. So, and that brings me to actually what you're actually doing. So you call yourself an interactive RPG creator. If you go, if anyone goes on your Twitter profile, I will keep saying Twitter. If anyone goes on your Twitter or YouTube or anywhere where you are, they will see interactive RPG creator. And I know you make games that creators can play through their chats, as you mentioned. So, care to elaborate? What exactly do you do? And if you want to say a bit more about what you're working on right now, I'm sure people will be interested as well.
So, what I'm working on now is an interactive RPG. It's an RPG that's played through streaming platforms. So currently we have available Twitch and Discord. And we're hoping to have YouTube available maybe by the end of the year. That one's a little wonky, and I got to figure that one out. But that's the focus of what I do, is I try to make interactive games that streamers can play with their chat as a way to bring the chat in. And there's a huge just swath of things you can do with that. we're working on a turn-based RPG right now. I've got plans for just a fun gacha game, using your chatters as the gachas, as the things that you get from the gacha. And there's just every genre has something that can be added. And you're specifically looking at streaming platforms, and I think streamers need more things that broaden that interactivity between them and their chat, not just playing a game and your chat commentates on it, or you're speaking with them while you're playing, or you're teaching them things about the game that maybe they don't know. It's just another way for streamers to stream, honestly.
Yes, and it's very interesting, the kind of stuff that you do, and I guess some people in who are listening to this might have this question as well. And this is, by the way, off the script, something that just came to my mind is and you don't have to answer this because you might not be comfortable talking about it. But when you're working in such a specific niche, how do you monetize your work, and how do you make it sustainable?
That is a fun question. So, as I said before, I've been streaming on Twitch for almost 4 years now. This year will be 4 years. And I'm not affiliated on Twitch. I removed Twitch affiliate in the summer of 2022.
Okay.
So you can't even go to my channel and sub.
Okay.
So what we do is I go through other platforms, specifically Ko-fi, and my community supports what we do through those outside platforms.
Okay, I see.
I'm not going to get into why I necessarily canceled affiliate status, but my community supports me through Ko-fi, and directly for this game, we also have Discord subs. So people who are interested in the game that we're making right now can go to the official Discord server for the game. They can sub through that, which helps us monetize the game a little bit there. And it gives them a couple extra features within the game itself, no matter what platform they're playing on.
Interesting.
But as a content creator, that's how I monetize. As a game developer, we have an investor for the game, so I don't necessarily have to rely on the community to help support the game financially. And then when we release the game, it'll be a paid game, and we'll get some return on that as well.
Of course. Right. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Basically, you're supporting your content creation efforts through the creator economy, of course, as I expected. But also, yeah, it's interesting that you managed to find an investor for Falinere Fantasy, and also, well, kudos to you for doing so, because especially in such a very specific niche, I mean, it does feel like it might have been a little bit of a pain. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious about one thing, just a little bit of curiosity from me. Where does the name Falinere come from? First, Falinere is your username, but also Falinere Fantasy is the name of your game. So yeah, where does it come from?
So I am really bad, notoriously, of making names in video games.
All right. Okay.
Of course, like every game requires you to make a name for it. So my wife and I were playing World of Warcraft, 2012, 2011-ish, and we started new characters, and I handed her my laptop, and I said, please, God, make something for me. And she genuinely is very, very good. She writes fanfic. She's an incredible writer, and this is the kind of stuff she enjoys. I was like, just make something for me. I don't want to write Billy on another username. Can't do this. And then she just came up with Falinere, and I love it so much that I stuck with it. Everything else that I do, I'm Falinere on everything.
Wow.
And that just kind of rolls back to the naming of the game. Falinere Fantasy started off much smaller than what it is now, and I couldn't think of a name for it. And there was a member of my community that just, in the chat, just all caps, yelled Falinere Fantasy when I was asking them for name ideas.
Oh, wow.
And I said,
I mean,
we're taking it.
this is beyond anything I was expecting as a story behind the Falinere game. It's so heartwarming. I love it. It's just amazing. And it's great that, it came from your loved one, of course, the woman you love more than anything else in your life, I suppose. And it reminds me of a person that I know, and a dear friend of mine who's also very good at with names and with these fun little things. And yeah, it's just it's great that you love it so much that it's in every single bit of your life. So that's great. So well, I guess now we are we've just reached the core of this episode, which is when I always ask this question. And it's something I'm deeply attached to. Why are you a game developer? What drives you forward?
So I wanted to do some kind of game development, as early as junior year of high school.
Right.
And for those of you listening, that was almost 20 years ago now. And I didn't know necessarily what I wanted to do, but I knew that's where I wanted to be. And I lost an opportunity to be able to go to college for it in my senior year of high school. And in the process of losing that opportunity, I completely just dropped the idea at all from being able to do it, and I never pursued it. It is something I even rarely thought about. And then going back to that moment where I was speaking with a friend of mine about the Smash Brothers arena, and realized I had the tools on hand to make something, that I should just try to make something. And I enjoyed the result of that process, whether it was good or bad, so much that it brought that back. And then I kept trying to make more things using the tools that I had access to. And then that's just kind of how I wound up here. I just kept making more things.
Well, I guess that I resonate with that. I can relate with that one a lot myself, because personally, I guess my path into development has been unconventional too. I got a bit more serious in the past 6 months when I started doing an actual course to learn the basics of programming in general. But I've always kind of tinkered with game development here and there for the past probably 5 to 6 years. Always been interested in learning more about the craft and such. And I think I relate with what you said about the fact I really enjoy the result, but I also really enjoy the process. Every single time something works, it's just amazing. And when it doesn't work and there's a problem that you have to solve, then it's amazing when you actually find a solution too. So I think you really hit the nail on the head there. And it's a really important thing that you said. And I guess for the first time in the history of the show, I would have to ask you as well, why are you a content creator game dev?
I think the only reason that I'm a content creator game dev, or I should say a game dev that focuses on content creation, is because technically by a few months I was a content creator first.
Okay.
If I had actually gone through what you would even consider a proper path for game dev, I would not focus in the way that I do. It would just be more in line with your typical game development process. But because I'm approaching this as someone who enjoys content creation as well, that's the focus that I put in on it, is one that views it through the lens of content creation.
And well, of course, there's also the flip side of the coin, which is, what is something that you think drives you backwards? Like, what's your biggest struggle as an indie developer, as a game developer in general?
Twitch chat.
Twitch chat.
Twitch chat drives me backwards every single day.
Okay.
It's incredible doing a 4-hour stream to work on a particular thing in relation to the game, and then realizing I've only done like 20 minutes of work. We really accomplished something today. So yeah, my biggest hurdle is Twitch chat.
All right, I see. So it kind of slows you down in a way. Yeah, okay, yeah. I see. Right. Well then, I guess we're about to wrap up here. I just have 2 more questions for you before some parting words. And my first one would be, You mentioned that you've been wanting to do game development since your junior year in high school.
Mhm.
So imagine writing a letter to yourself, but to that person, to that Falinere, I guess. What would you say?
I didn't know what the scene looked like 20 years ago as far as game development. I know that right now there's nothing in this world that says you have to have a formal education to do game development. In fact, the software is so readily available to the general public, and with the access to YouTube that we have, you can learn anything, which is incredible. And I love that. Those resources, at least to this extent, didn't exist back then. So if I had to go back and talk to myself, I would just say don't give up on it, because it's something that makes you happy, and you don't know what you want to do, so you're just going to float around in life for a while. And this is something that you want to do, so find a way. Even if it's small steps, find a way.
Yeah, I think your younger self would appreciate that kind of word of advice, I'm sure. And of course, here's a little bit of a fun question for you. If you had unlimited budget and time, what game would you create?
Oh man, unlimited budget and time.
Something tells me maybe you have a World of Warcraft or something like that, but let's see if I'm right.
So the funny thing is, if I had unlimited budget and time, I would make what I'm making right now.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
It would be more, definitely more. But I would make what I'm making right now, and with the unlimited time, I would have time to learn the skills that I want to apply to what I'm doing now that I may not have for another 10 years.
And you wouldn't have to worry about the Twitch chat slowing you down. that's
well, less often. We'll say less often.
Yeah, less often. Okay. Well, I guess there are usually two answers to this question. One who says the people who say I want to make an MMO, and the people who say I want to do the exact thing I'm doing now but bigger. And as my gift to those who say the latter, although the former is perfectly reasonable, my personal gift to those who say the latter, like you, I would say when you feel like you would do exactly what you're doing now with more, if you had unlimited resources, it probably means you're on the right track. And I think you are. You're having so much fun doing what you're doing, and I can really tell. So wishing you all the best with that. But I think it's now time for some parting words. So, Falinere, it's been a lovely episode together. It's been lovely having you on the show. Where can other people find you? And if they do, what is the best way to support you?
You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. YouTube, I make content creation on the evolution of that original Leroy board program. It's now called Sammy. And I make tutorials on how to use that. But you can find me on Twitch. I'm there, well, because of the move, we haven't streamed in like 3 weeks. But typically I'm there 3 days a week. And you can find a link to my Discord where you can contact me directly. And support through Ko-fi as well, you can find through my Twitch.
Amazing. So, and of course, I will put all of these links in the description of the episode so people can find you, and they can come and say hi if they want to. So, well, what can I say? Oh my God, my cable dropped. What can I say, Falinere, if not? It's been a beautiful episode together, beautiful chat. I am endlessly fascinated by what you do in terms of the interactive RPGs that streamers can play in chat. I know a couple streamers that, huge streamers that would love to do something like this. So I hope that you really find your luck with it, and I wish you all the best. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing chatting together.
You as well.
Falinere, my friend, thank you so much for being part of the show and for taking part in the Indieverse giveaway. This was just a beautiful episode, such a beautiful episode to have together, and we had beautiful conversation. I truly wish you all the best with Falinere Fantasy and everything that you're doing. And I do hope that you get to do that little thing that you told me right off the record when we stopped recording, because that would be so beautiful for you and your loved one indeed. So yeah. And for you guys back home or wherever you are, thank you for listening to the episode so far, and thank you for sticking with me until now. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the show, leave a rating, 5 stars. That always helps wherever you are on Spotify and such. And of course, feel free to check out my YouTube channel where I regularly publish clips from these episodes in video format. Also, if you want to support the show in any way, feel free to check out theindiediaries.com, where you'll find links to Patreon, Coffee, my social media, and every single thing that you can think of. Your support is always very much appreciated. Of course, if you're an indie game developer yourself, please get in touch, because I would love to tell your story to my listeners. Until next time.